Hello, I am Avery or Hazel or Kylie. You can just pick one. I do not care which one you pick. And welcome to the first episode of the Off the Shelf podcast. This podcast will release at minimum every other week, but episodes will always release on Wednesdays. All right, today on for the first episode, I am covering The Higher Power of Lucky by Susan Patron. It is the first book in the Hardpan trilogy. You will find a link below to Goodreads you will find a link below to the Goodreads page for this book, which should also have a link to purchase it. And with that being said, I guess I will, I should also say spoilers for uh, spoilers for the book, obviously. So I first read this book quite a long time ago. I want to say I might have even been in middle school, and I graduated high school in 2016, so it's been 6 years since then, so it's been even longer since I read this book. And there are some things I just didn't quite recall about it. For one, there's some weird bits of the, I guess I should put it this way. The one major issue that I have with this book is there's this weird bit kind of early on where the protagonist, who is a 10-year-old girl, is thinking about what on earth a scrotum is and saying that she might like to see a scrotum. And I was just like, ugh, that's a little weird. I mean, obviously, she doesn't know what the word means, so it's not nearly as bad. It just kind of feels weird because an adult wrote this about a 10-year-old girl. But apart from that, I think it's not the worst thing I've seen in a book, honestly. So the whole book kind of focuses on this character named Lucky Trimble, and she has been spying on some people in Alcoholics Anonymous, Smokers Anonymous, things like that. And she keeps hearing this talk of higher powers, which is something that allows people to gain control over their lives. And I think part of me thinks that what this book is trying to do is describe higher power as it's just a term for motivation. And with that being said, it's just kind of it's so weird how this how it's being framed here. And then also I do have some I'll have some other complaints which I'll get into later. But basically, so we have this set up for higher powers and stuff, and she's just wondering what's going on here with higher powers and how can she find her higher power and get control of her life. And the reality is, as a 10-year-old, you really can't. The adults in your life have complete control over you. And there's just no way to get around that. And, it's kind of and the thing with Lucky though is she struggles with abandonment issues. Her mother died from stepping on a downed power line. Her father is a deadbeat who basically just abandoned her, and he paid child support, so he's not the most asshole of a father. But the guy asks his first wife to fly to California from France to take care of his daughter from that he had from his second wife after divorcing the first one. What on earth? If this dude was making a post on like r slash am I the asshole, I'm convinced like the YouTuber r slash would give him the full 5 out of 5, and he almost never does that because like deadbeat parents suck. Anyway, so she's struggling with abandonment issues, and she thinks her guardian Brigitte, who is her father's first wife who came over to take care of her, she's worried that she'll leave and go to France, and just kind of abandon her. And she basically, like, at some point, she just runs away. And there's like other like subplots here too. There's like a whole thing with another character named Miles who lives with his grandmother, and his mother is in jail and he doesn't know it. And at some point, like Lucky reveals this to him, which is kind of an asshole thing to do, but he actually like takes it really, really well. And he's like, it almost seems like Miles was also dealing with abandonment issues, and like finding out that she's not avoiding him on purpose and that she's just in jail gave him some closure, because like his grandmother never told him that. Granted, he is like 5 years old, so like I can understand like she still could have waited a bit to tell him a little bit later. I don't know. I don't know how long she was going to be in jail for, but it was a drug charge, so I don't know how long it would have been. And then we have this other character named Lincoln, who apparently is the youngest member of the International Guild of Knot Tires, which apparently is a real thing. That is just all right. I kind of shocked that's real. But anyway, it and they have a website and everything too. It's just is wild to me. And like they mentioned a museum of knots in France. I didn't do any research to find out if that is real, but yeah, the whole thing with Lincoln is like he's got this pressure on him from his parents to become president of the United States. So much so that his name is James. Wait, no, it's Lincoln Clinton Carter Kennedy. I don't know where James came from. But like, yeah, so you name your kid after 4 U.S. presidents because you want him to be the president of the U.S. Clinton might not have been one of the best ones to use there. That's probably not a great idea. I mean, that's like, in the list of American presidents, he's among the worst, right up there with like Nixon and Buchanan and Trump. But yeah, it's like, ugh, not a good idea to name your kid after Bill Clinton. Genuinely bad there. So yeah, it's like there's some not great there's some not great parenting going around with like all three of these main characters. And like the other thing too is like they live in this really small town called Hardpan in California, which apparently has a population of 42. I have seen some buildings with a population bigger than that, like just individual buildings. So yeah, this is a very tiny town. Very like it very much seems that everybody knows each other. Um, and then it's so basically Lucky. It also seems to me like Lucky has a crush on Lincoln, and the two of them probably are crushing on each other, but it's like, they're 10, so they don't really do anything about it yet. They're not that age. I feel like maybe they did something about it later in one of the other two books, which I have read. I just don't remember anything about them. Like I remembered the most about this book, for some reason, and I think that's because I read it twice, prior to recording this episode. Because there was the original time I read it, and then I figured out much later that it was a trilogy, so I read it again to do the trilogy. And now I'm reading it again in my adult life for this podcast. But yeah, so Lucky, she runs away because she's afraid that Bridget is going to abandon her. I said Bridget, it's Brigitte. That's my bad. But yeah, so the whole thing is like while she's running away, Miles shows up and it kind of interrupts her, and that's when she tells him about his mother being in jail. And that was kind of a dick move. Then this storm comes in, and Miles wasn't really trying to run away, but it seems that everyone thinks he ran away. And when Lucky finally does manage to run away, she kind of just doesn't seem to care about the fact that Miles is missing, which is kind of dick move, Lucky. Kind of a dick move there, Lucky. And yeah, it's she even then manages to find him by complete coincidence and tries to ditch him, before he can even see her. And that completely fails. But come on, she literally says in the book that she feels responsible for his disappearance. And then she tries to run away. She is 10, but still, it's just not the best. Not the best move to have there. But yeah, so basically she gets found, and the whole thing with her mother being dead, that comes back again. Because okay, so throughout the book they referenced the memorial service that they had for Lucky's mother, in which she was supposed to spread release her grandmother's her grandmother, yeah, she was supposed to release her mother's ashes out into the wind. But she didn't do that at the memorial service. And when she ran away, she brought the urn with her ashes with her. And when she's eventually found, she does finally release her mother's remains. And it's an interesting moment here. And then we get a little bit of a time skip, not too much of one, but basically throughout the book it's been planting seeds of Brigitte possibly creating a restaurant. And we see so right before Lucky decides to run away, Brigitte kind of skips out on a nightly ritual that she and Lucky have to take lessons on managing a restaurant. And she's getting an online diploma from France. And then also we see this briefcase or suitcase or whatever that Brigitte had moved to America with. And Lucky sees inside of it and sees her passport in there. And her thought process is you only need a passport when you're leaving the country. So yeah, but fast forward, we get to the point where this small time skip occurs, and we find out that Brigitte was actually planning to formally adopt Lucky, and that was going to be, and that was why she needed the passport. because like I assume I don't really know how adoption works, but I would think that maybe yeah her passport was required for that. And the restaurant classes were so that she could open up a French cuisine restaurant in Hardpan, which also seemed like a really good idea because the place did not have very many jobs available for people to work. So yeah, it's a fair enough story. It doesn't really have much to like super keep you engaged, but um, it's like entertaining enough, and it's short enough that it doesn't feel like it overstays its welcome. Something I was a little annoyed by. There are entire chapters of this book that are nothing but exposition, and that really just rubs me the wrong way. Uh it but like it also just like in general avoided cliches and particularly bothersome tropes that like plague a lot of books that I've read. So I can kind of appreciate it for that. So with all that being said, like I don't know, like this book really didn't feel like it needed to have sequels. It's kind of weird. This book could very much work as a standalone novel by itself. Um, so yeah, I think with everything being said, I'm going to go ahead and rate this book, and I think I will give it a. Mm, I I hadn't really thought about how I was gonna do ratings for the books, but because like on From the Closet, which is the other podcast I do, um, we do a scale from 1.0 to 10.0, and that just makes sense for movies. But I figure since Goodreads uses like the 5-star system, I think I will as well. So I think I'm going to give this book 3 out of 5 stars. It's fairly all right. It doesn't overstay its welcome, but it's not the best book out there. And with that being said, you can join me in either 1 week or 2 weeks, depending on how long it takes, for Poison by Chris Wooding. I probably should have said that closer to the beginning. I'll get better at this. This is the first episode of Off the Shelf, so you know. Like I said, you will find a link below to the Goodreads page for this book, which should also have a link to purchase it. Uh, and with all of that being said, I have been Avery or Hazel or Kylie, just pick. And I will see you with the next book.